Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Tempe City Council regular council meeting. Item number 1 is call to order. Council meetings can be watched in real time via Cox Cable Channel 11 and at tempe.gov/tempe11. Members of the public may also attend the meeting virtually through Microsoft Teams. If you're here to speak on items designated as public hearing items later on the agenda, please know that you will have an opportunity to speak when I introduce those items at the time of their public hearing. The City Council and I will need to complete other items of business leading up to those items, so we appreciate your patience. If you wish to speak on a public hearing item and you haven't filled out a speaker card yet, please make sure to fill out and submit your completed card to the City Clerk prior to the agenda item coming forward for council discussion. I will call your name when it is your turn for public comment. I'd now like to invite everyone who's able and willing to stand to join me in a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Next up, once again, tonight's agenda has a number of items that the City Council must consider in order to conduct city business. Guidelines for conduct at City Council meetings are on the table near the entrance for those in attendance at tonight's meeting. We will now play a video with the proper protocol for ensuring the appropriate conduct at City Council meetings.
The City of Tempe welcomes public comment at this time. Disruptive behavior will not be allowed. Continued disruptive behavior will lead to removal from the council chambers. We need to be able to hear everyone in the room. Behavior that disrupts, disturbs, or otherwise impedes the orderly conduct of any city council meeting is not helpful and is not permitted. This includes behavior both inside and outside of the council chambers. Should individuals inside the council chambers become disruptive so that city business is not able to be conducted, the mayor will first ask that the individuals allow city business to be completed. There will be time for public comment during the call to the audience portion of the meeting. If no cooperation, the mayor will issue a verbal warning and let them know that the continued disruptive behavior will lead to removal from the council chambers. If there is still no cooperation, the mayor will issue a second verbal warning and let them know that the continued disruptive behavior will lead to removal from the council chambers. If there is no cooperation after asking and 2 verbal warnings, then the mayor will ask security officers to remove only those individuals who are causing the disruption. Security personnel should not engage in any way, but only escort them from the council chambers. If individuals refuse to leave, security personnel shall warn them that they are trespassing and that the next step will be arrest by a Tempe police officer. Tempe officers may have to arrest if individuals refuse to leave. Charges for trespass and disorderly conduct may apply, as well as other charges. Should anyone be asked to be removed, the mayor will recess the meeting.
Thank you very much, and we're now going to play a video conveying the City of Tempe's Native Land Acknowledgement Statement.
We wish to acknowledge that Tempe is the homeland of the Native people who have inhabited this landscape since time immemorial. These ancestral lands of the O'odham, known as Pima, Peeposh, known as the Maricopa, and their ancestors extend far beyond our city. This land continues to be spiritually connected to the O'odham of the Salt River Pima, Maricopa Indian Community, and Gila River Indian Community. We accept the responsibility of stewarding those places and solemnly pledge to consider this commitment in every action.
Excellent. Thank you so much. We'll move on now to item number 4, meeting minutes. Tonight I'll be assisted by Councilmember Chin. Councilmember Chin.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to submit for approval item 4A1 to 4A2.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Chin and seconded by Councilmember Keating. Please vote. And that item passes 6-0 with Vice Mayor Adams absent. Next up, item 4B, acceptance of board, commission, and committee meeting minutes. Councilmember Chin.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to submit for acceptance items 4B1 through 4B11.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Chin and seconded again by Councilmember Keating. Please vote. That item also passes 6-0 with Vice Mayor Adams absent. That moves us here to item number 5, reports and announcements. I have a few here this evening. First one is item 5A1, World Pancreatic Cancer Day Proclamation. And that proclamation reads, whereas in 2023, an estimated 64,050 Americans will be diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in the United States, and more than 50,550 will die from the disease. And whereas pancreatic cancer has the highest mortality rate of all major cancers, for all stages combined, the 5-year relative survival rate is 12%. And whereas it is currently the 3rd leading cause of cancer-related deaths in the United States after lung and colon, and is expected to become the 2nd by the year 2030. And whereas symptoms for pancreatic cancer may include weight loss, abdominal discomfort, back pain, development of type 2 diabetes, and some tumors may cause jaundice, leading to earlier diagnosis. And whereas the good health and well-being of the residents of Tempe are enhanced as a direct result of increased awareness about pancreatic cancer and research into early detection, causes, and effective treatments. Now, therefore, I, Corey Woods, Mayor of the City of Tempe, Arizona, do hereby declare November 16th, 2023 as World Pancreatic Cancer Day in Tempe, Arizona. Couple others that I want to make sure I announce. Item 5A2, just wanted to announce our colleague here, Councilmember Dorian Garland's appointment to the National League of Cities Board of Directors. Councilmember Garland was elected to the National League of Cities Board of Directors by NLC's membership at the 2023 City Summit in Atlanta, Georgia. Councilmember Garland is elected to a 2-year term and will provide strategic direction and guidance for NLC's federal advocacy, governance, and membership activities. National League of Cities is the country's largest organization for cities, their elected leaders, and municipal staff. NLC advocates for city priorities in Washington by building strong federal-local partnerships. And I wanted to say, congratulations to Councilmember Garland. Yes, okay. We are looking forward to her representing the city of Tempe and our constituents on a national level, so congratulations. And next up here, a recognition here for our city manager, Rosa Inchausti, and our deputy city manager, Greg Reese. Just wanted to thank them as well for representing Tempe at the National League of Cities Conference as well and talking about Tempe's human-centered approaches to address homelessness. This educational session focused on using local data, both qualitative and quantitative, to make informed decisions about how to best allocate services, resources, and programs to most effectively meet the needs of those experiencing homelessness in our community. Tempe's leadership on this issue was well received by the other cities in attendance. I was there in attendance as well, and I can tell it definitely was exceptionally well received. And we do hope that other cities and towns across the country can learn from the hard work that our staff has done to address this crisis. So thank you very much to our city manager, Rosa Inchausti, and our deputy city manager, Greg Reese. That moves me to item 5B, City Manager's Reports and Announcements. Madam City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of announcements, and thank you for that recognition. That's really a group effort, as we all know. There's a couple people from the city there, but it represents an entire team that's worked on that initiative, so thank you for the recognition. So real quickly, with the appointment of my role in June, we started working on priorities. Thank you. Priorities, and we identified one specific priority out of the 4, community safety. And as you recall, you just mentioned his name, Deputy City Manager Greg Reese. One of the initiatives was reorganizing our public safety and community health and human services under one Deputy City Manager. And the intention is to really hyper-focus on community safety. We heard loud and clear through our community survey and our business survey the importance and how imperative this is for our community. Our constituents, our community wants to make sure that we advance everything with regards to community safety. I am happy to share this week that one of the initiatives that we discussed at the executive team was to create a Tempe Stats, launching a Tempe Stat. And what that is really basically is looking at data-driven leadership model using data, a lot of data, which this city is not. It's not new to us. We've been doing this since 2016, but being very intentional of creating a task force out of the city manager's office under the leadership of Deputy City Manager Greg Reese to move our Vision Zero working group, which has done a great job, but being more intentional about who else needs to be at that table to move the needle, basically to create community safety. after the tragic accident this past weekend with regards to racing in our city. I thought it was important to remind the public and all of us the importance of being very intentional with trying to address community safety, especially with these the reducing speed and street racing and impaired drivers on our streets. The first meeting went very well. We're meeting every 2 weeks, and we have more to share as time goes on, but more strategies to come to share with you and the public, and with the outcome of really creating greater safety on our streets and hopefully reducing fatal and serious car crashes. Thank you, Jason, for that. Yes. This was just a slide to explain to the public. I will be sharing with the community a second newsletter, end of the year, beginning of next year, explaining all this in more detail. But I'm very proud of the team, and that shows a little more specific information regarding what we're working on. And then I am proud to ask our park rangers who are here tonight with all of us to come forward and thank them for joining us tonight. I'm sure they've been working since, as we know, they start at 5 a.m., many of them, but they have joined us here today. And as we know, we've heard from the community. I was very excited that the Park Rangers program has finally been launched. 17 positions in our parks, 17 positions that you all have approved, including a management assistant, a supervisor, 3 leads, and 12 park rangers. 15 of the 17 positions have been filled, and we're looking for 2 others, so it's a call to the public if they would like to help keep our community safe. And I would like to call Craig Hayden up, and there's Keith, if he would like to come and just make a quick, oh, there he is. You blended in with the camouflage.
I did somehow blend it in with all green.
Thank you, Craig.
Thank you, Madam City Manager. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Craig Hayden, Community Services Director. We've really hit a huge milestone this week. Many of the folks here represent departments that have really supported the effort based on the priority for Mayor and Council to really improve the community safety, feeling of safety within parks. And with that, the recreation of the Park Ranger program in what has been pretty quick speed for a government organization. And with that, we're thrilled that not only did the Rangers start just over a month ago, we'd love to introduce you to them by name today that are here, but also they started field training this week. So the community is actually getting a chance to engage with them, have a chance to be a positive presence within the parks, and also just to hear what some of the issues are that we can make some positive impact to. So before I turn it over either to Tom or Mike to provide some individual introductions, do want to point out we have Shelby Meyer, who has moved in from Tempe Fire Medical Rescue in a support role with the Park Ranger as a management assistant. And then we have Ruben Wilkinson, who is the manager who provides support to Michael Spikes, who wasn't able to be here tonight, who is the supervisor for the team. But we have a great team, and look forward. I'll turn it over to Tom. Has drawn the short straw to introduce the team just by name. So the goal tonight would just be an opportunity for you to get to know the Rangers, but also for the community as well, just by name.
Good evening. I'm happy to be here and proud that the city got the Park Ranger program up and running again. I've been here for almost 9 years. So I worked with some former Rangers, and all the community contacts that they had out in the field was phenomenal. I'm looking forward to working alongside these Rangers over here. Right over there, we have Ranger Troncoso. He brings a lot of experience from working for Allied Security through the city. We have Ranger Sindel over there. He's also bringing a lot of wealth of knowledge and experience. We have Ranger Cole right there. He's a veteran, served 25 years in the Army. And then we have Ranger Williams. He has a lot of experience, worked at the Desert Botanical Garden, so he's a botanist and knows a lot about plants and information like that. Ranger Forrest, he was an EMT paramedic for about 6 years, so he brings a lot of experience and wealth of knowledge also. Over here we have Ranger Pike. She's been working for the city for a while. She was a park monitor, so she brings a lot of experience as well. Ranger Link was a supervisor at the Lake Pleasant Harbor, so brings a lot of boating experience. He's actually one of the CFDs stationed at the lake right now. And then Ranger Marco, he brings a lot of experience from Glendale. He was a Glendale Park Ranger. And back over there is the other lead. He's Lead Clark. He came from Tacoma. He was been PD for a while, but I can attest that everybody's excited to bring this program back, and we're looking forward to being out there and educating and being great ambassadors to the city.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we certainly would love to provide a photo opportunity if
Yeah,
Mayor and Council
sure,
would like to come
absolutely.
down. Great, thank you. Jason will let us know where we'll be.
In the back.
You want us to kind of dip down?
Come on over, guys. Plenty of room.
I'll come over here.
A little bit towards the middle here. Yeah, there we go. Rosa, let's have you switch forward.
One step in front of Sean.
Stand next to me.
Come here. 8 hours later.
There we go, we got you. Ready? 1, 2, 3, big smile. Ready, one more? And a final one. 1, 2, 3, big smile. Got you. All right.
I'll see you guys Can't wait to see you on Saturday.
I'll definitely be there on Saturday.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. Also, Alex Jovanovich was not able to make it tonight, but he's been a huge lead bringing the program to where it's at today. So I know Alex would love to have been here. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Oh, okay.
My name is Michael Spikes. I am the Park Ranger Supervisor for the City of Tempe. The City of Tempe's Park Ranger program is about being ambassadors to the open space, the flatland parks and preserves within the City of Tempe. It's about having a resource for information, for education to park patrons and users, and it's about enhancing that feeling of safety and security within the parks. We want to lead by education, and of course the Rangers have the ability, when necessary, to provide warnings and to issue trespasses and to issue citations for city code violations, which is the last option that we want to take as park rangers. We hope to lead with information and education.
The park rangers will be hitting all of the larger parks, the Kiwanis, the Tempe Beach Park, and then also the neighborhood parks, the smaller parks that are designated for all of those folks in the specific neighborhood. But we're going to be out patrolling and checking and all of that, all of the city parks. We would all hope that everyone would say hi to us, when we're walking around the park and doing our patrols and checking on playground equipment or just the Ramada facilities or whatever the case may be. We want to talk to the citizens. We want to talk to the users of the park.
You can easily identify the City of Tempe Park Rangers by their uniform. They will all be in uniform throughout their patrol shift. Uniform is marked as the Park Ranger. We got this beautiful grass here. Their names are on the uniform. It says Park Ranger on the back. The best way to get in touch with the Park Rangers, if you don't see one out and about, you just want to go talk to them, is through Tempe 311, either utilizing the app. Tempe 311 also has the number 480-350-4311, and they can connect you to a park ranger or a voicemail, and myself or one of my leads will then respond accordingly.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Wonderful. Welcome to all of our park rangers. Madam City Manager, any other announcements?
Nothing else, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
It sounds good. Thank you so much. That moves us to item number 6, public appearances. According to the Arizona Open Meeting Law, the City Council may only discuss matters listed elsewhere on this agenda for discussion and legal action. The purpose of the open call to the public is to allow individuals to address the City Council on any issue within the jurisdiction of the City Council. No person shall speak more than once, and there is a limit of 3 minutes per speaker. Speakers present at the podium must state their name and city of residence and provide a speaker card. Members of the public shall refrain from making personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks and from becoming boisterous while addressing the city council or while attending the meeting. Speakers will be taken first come, first serve in the order in which the cards are received. Speakers' visual aids and appearances by phone or recordings are not allowed. Council members are prohibited by state law from taking action on, commenting, or discussing a matter raised by a member of the public, even if asked to do so by a member of the public, so long as the subject discussed by the speaker is not listed as a specific agenda item for council's consideration for discussion and legal action. At the conclusion of public appearances, the council may ask the city manager to review a matter or place a matter on a future agenda. With that said, I've got one speaker in just sort of general public appearances this evening. That speaker is Ann Till. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Hello, I'm Ann Till, Tempe resident, and the accidents are terrible. And there's been 2 also at Country Club Way in Southern that were very tragic, similar to the one this weekend. And also, thanks for getting the park rangers. But I wanted to talk more about ADUs because I think some of my points were missed. One, people don't know what an accessory dwelling unit is. I always ask people, do you know what an accessory dwelling unit? Nobody knows what it is until, they can identify if I say a guest house or something. So that affects the impacts of the survey because people don't think it's relevant. And then it sounds good, but what does it cost? And so what it is and what does it cost? So I think the cost is really important for the city to show. And I asked for a couple tables, showing some cost data last time because I think it's very important. Also, what homes, they're not going to be HOAs, which are often in higher priced areas. They're not going to be higher cost homes usually. So they're probably going to be targeted toward less expensive homes, people with modest incomes. And then investors have more resource and capability to keep it, maximally staffed. Most people with modest incomes often don't have money laying around to put on an ADU, and they don't have access to loans. Loans are a little harder than just getting a standard loan. But anyways, it's very important to show cost. And then college rentals weren't mentioned too much. Short-term rentals were, but college rentals are probably more of a problem with the noise and the vehicles and all the different things. And then if building code restrictions are put on, can they be enforced? And then I wanted to mention my elderly parent because that was brought up by 2 of you guys. And I just am going through that with my 92-year-old dad who has dementia. And believe me, he couldn't live with me, like he's not nice. So, I wanted to keep him home longer, but, and I almost lost my job caring for him. So, that was without him living in my home, but 2 miles away. And also, my dad was very relieved when he went into memory care because I did.
10 more seconds.
Yeah, so he was relieved because he was independent of me in memory care. He had his own life. So I wanted to mention that because, you put that in and there's a cost, and you got to have money for the long-term care. So,
Absolutely. Thank you, Ms. Till. Appreciate it. All right, that is the only card I have for general public appearances this evening. Once again, if you're speaking on a specific agenda item, I do have cards for those later tonight. Is there anyone else in the audience this evening who wishes to address the council under public appearances? If so, please get my attention. All right, seeing none, I will close that portion of the meeting, and I will move on to item number 7, which is the consent agenda. All items listed on the consent agenda will be considered as a group and will be enacted with one motion by the City Council unless an item is removed for separate consideration. Members of the public may remove public hearing items for separate consideration. Public hearing items are designated as public hearing item at the beginning of the item title. Council members may remove any item for separate consideration or to declare a conflict of interest. If a council member would like to declare a conflict at this time, the city clerk will provide the council member with a disclosure form. If you wish to speak on a public hearing item, please fill out a speaker card and submit your completed card to the city clerk prior to the agenda item coming forward for council discussion. I will call your name when it is your turn for public comment. This evening, the consent agenda is listed as miscellaneous, items 7A1 through 7A8, awards of bids and contracts, items 7B1 through 7B23, and resolutions, items 7C1 through 7C11. Once again, any agenda item designated as public hearing item can be removed by a member of the public for separate consideration. If anyone would like to have a public hearing item removed, please get my attention now. Okay, seeing none, I will look to our clerk. Were there any comments received from the public wishing to address the council on a consent agenda public hearing item?
Nothing on consent agenda. Thank you.
Okay, sounds good, council. Any other items you'd like to have removed for separate consideration? Okay, if not, then I will look for a motion to approve. It's been moved by Councilmember Hodge and seconded by Councilmember Keating. Please vote. Councilmember Hodge? And that item passes 6-0 with Vice Mayor Adams absent. That takes me to the non-consent agenda, which is listed as item number 8. All items listed on the non-consent agenda will be considered separately. Agenda items scheduled for introduction and first public hearing will be heard but will not be voted upon at this meeting. Agenda items scheduled for second public hearing and final adoption will be voted upon tonight. Council members who may have a conflict of interest may abstain from voting on a matter, and the city clerk will provide the council members with the disclosure form at this time. Before we get, I want to make sure I want to announce the reordering of the items on the non-consent agenda so that item 8C1 is heard at the beginning of the non-consent agenda, followed by all the other 8A items in the order listed on the agenda, with 8A3 listed as the last item, all the AB items in the order listed on the agenda, and lastly, the 8C2 through 8C4 items. So once again, 8C1 is scheduled for adoption tonight, so a vote will be taken this evening. And that item is to hold the second and final public hearing to adopt an ordinance amending Chapter 8 Tempe City Code relating to buildings and building regulations, and amending Article 1, the Tempe Administrative Code, and adopting the 2018 International Green Construction Code and amendments thereto as Article 11. Is there a presentation from staff on this item? Yes. All right. Good evening. I see Eric Iverson and Mike Baxley.
Trying to get prepared. I wasn't.
Well, you don't have to give a lengthy presentation. I'm just
no. We
make
just
it short. It just happens to be in my script.
Yeah, we really have one slide. Thanks, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Thank you. I'm Eric Iverson, City of Tempe's Sustainability and Resilience Director, here with
Mike Baxley. I'm the Deputy Director for Community Development over Building Safety.
And I also wanted to mention that we also have our consultant, a representative of our consultant team, Greg Kinkle with Quest Energy, who's here with us today. It's a Tempe firm that we worked with to develop the code if there's any specific questions that come up that we cannot handle. I just want to mention that this is the culmination tonight of a pretty lengthy process that you're all aware of. We shared a lot of that process when we went before you for the first hearing on October 12th, I think it was. And a lot of great work has been done. We heard from, as I said at the first hearing, at the last time we presented to you, we heard from members all over the community, all age ranges as well. Really excited to see the enthusiasm and the interest in the project throughout the community, and that expresses to us the importance of it. You all have heard a lot of great comments in the last several weeks since we had the first hearing as well. Want to mention that we heard a couple comments from the first hearing, and we wanted to hit on some responses to that for you all tonight. So we have that on the record, and you all have that information before you have your vote tonight. So a couple things. We did hear from Councilmember Hodge the interest in reaching out to the school districts and making sure that the construction and the activities that the school districts are engaged in would happen. And we're putting together our plan now, assuming that we get to the place where we have a code that's in place. We are then putting together what our plan of action would be. So part of that is reaching out to the schools. So we want to make sure that that was mentioned tonight. And then we have, there were some questions about how are we tracking this and what are our next steps? We are proposing to come back to you annually. We can certainly come back before that as well at your request, but come back annually and report back on status of this program, status of how it's used, communication and coordination, collaboration with development community, making sure that that is moving along well. So we propose that as well. And then Mike Baxley wanted to mention a couple things that are happening specific to building safety and community development and how the code will work with that team.
So a couple of things is we had a position that's dedicated to this and also energy code. We've completed our interview process, and based on a vote tonight, we will be looking to make a offer to somebody in the next week or so. So that's coming soon. We would have that position up and running as this comes up and is available to start going forward. We also will be taking a look at how these things can best be implemented. What benefits are going to come from the Green Building Code in the community, and how to engage developers, community members in going ahead and using this on a voluntary basis. The tracking that Eric had talked about is we want to make sure that it's opportunity-based, that everybody has an idea of how to do it, and then we're going to be able to glean some of that information back, and we want to bring that back to you guys on an annual basis.
Yeah, I want to mention, as Mike said, there's been a lot of conversation about mandatory versus voluntary. We've heard pros and cons on both sides of that. We feel that, especially considering all the great feedback we heard on the pros and cons of mandatory versus voluntary, that we think we're hitting the sweet spot with advancing a voluntary at this point. We do see a lot of interest from our community on mandatory. You will hear it tonight. You've been hearing it. We hear concerns about mandatory as well. Cost escalation for construction at a time we already have inflation and escalation of costs. We hear comments and concerns about affordability of housing that can trickle down from expenses or construction costs. So that's why, and those are some of the reasons why we want to look at voluntary at this point. We want to see what happens with these actions. We want to be really mindful. You all are very interested in affordable housing in the city, so we want to be really mindful that we're keeping that in consideration and containing those costs. We do, however, because there is interest in mandatory and really being leaders in this space of sustainable architecture, sustainable construction, we feel that we do need, that's why we want to report annually, we do need to work towards that. We don't know what that looks like fully. We're giving, you see here on the slide, we're giving a 3-year window to kind of work on that. We think there are elements that could move forward as mandatory before a full mandatory code could be adopted. Things like EV charging, that's something you all have been expressing an interest in. It's something that developers are already doing. Solar canopies, those are things we're doing. Those are things developers are doing. Some of these things may move forward quicker and might be mandatory. So we want to keep working on that. We do see this great interest in doing it. We think it's responsible to do so, but we want to be careful in how we approach that. So those are just some of the comments we wanted to make sure that you were aware of. With that, I think we would open up to questions or any other comments.
Well, the only other thing I'd like to add is keep in mind that this is for commercial buildings. This is not for a single family residence. It's not designed for that. So it will be in the large multifamily or, like I said, in commercial or industrial type buildings. Simply only.
Okay, sounds good. Yes, Councilmember Keating?
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a quick question, and you might have already answered it, but I'm not remembering if you did. Is there a time frame from going? So we're doing it voluntarily, right? And as you mentioned, there is some feedback from the public about mandatory. And I understand it is your recommendation that it be voluntary at this point, kind of as a learning process to figure out what a mandatory system would look like in the future. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, we're, and you see on the slide, we're saying, it's really codes really work, and Mike can speak more directly to this, but they really work in a 3-year cycle. We're
Okay.
constantly, and you all see updates to our city code and adopting new elements to the code. So we want to give it, really give it a full 3 years.
Okay.
However, again, there may be elements that you all see or that the community sees that make sense to advance it quicker, and we can do that. But we will bring that forward once we know that. So really 3 years is what we're looking at for a good period of time to understand how this code's working.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Thank you so much. I'll go ahead and get to the public hearing portion. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I do have a number of cards here. I'm going to once again read these in the order in which they were received. The first speaker I have is virtual this evening, and it's David Sokolowski.
Mr. Sokolowski, can you please turn on your mic and speak?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Please state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
My name is David Sokolowski. I live in Tempe. Tempe has experienced its highest housing inflation in history, and more than half the city is cost burdened by rent. This isn't an appropriate time to adopt policies that will increase the cost of housing. We will probably have to earn more than $100,000 a year to qualify to live in green buildings. We literally can't afford to make the green building codes mandatory because most of our population can't meet the income requirements. Most redevelopment is happening in the Apache area, and there is a risk that this policy could increase the market value and will displace Tempe's residents by gentrifying our most affordable neighborhood. The apartments that have all the amenities like car chargers are not the kind of apartments you can rent with a Section 8 voucher. Equity means that you help the people who are the most vulnerable. It doesn't mean raising the bar and promoting luxury housing. We're in a housing crisis, and we can't allow people to continue suffering in poverty and homelessness. We need you to lower the bar to make Tempe accessible and inclusive to people of all incomes and backgrounds. We need to build more than 1,000 low-income units per year, and the city is failing to achieve the desired outcome. Hometown for All is a great idea in theory, if the city was willing to fund affordable housing. The city can't expect affordable housing to pencil out while raising the bar on developments, and the city can't accept that affordable housing doesn't pencil out. We need to make it pencil by whatever means necessary. This should be the city's top priority, while we still have a chance to prevent a death spiral. I don't think Tempe can issue Section 8 vouchers to literally half the city, and the longer we wait, the more difficult it will be to solve. Tempe has a growing list of demands for everything except affordable housing. Developers are going to know that you won't vote for their projects if they don't have car chargers, and solar panels, and dog parks, and balconies, and your favorite color. Even if developers compromise and they reduce the height of the building, you still might vote no. I think that sets a really bad standard for our city. We're in a housing crisis, and we have council members voting no on housing projects. City staff has said that this code will be voluntary at first, but will soon become mandatory. But I believe this code will be de facto mandatory, and that's why I think you should vote no. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. The next card I have this evening is from Barbie Burke. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. I'm Barbie Burke. I live in Tempe, longtime resident. I am the vice chair of the Tempe Resiliency and Sustainability Commission, and I'm here to request that you vote yes on the IGCC. And I look at it as these are the top priorities of this code for Tempe. It'll prioritize high-performance buildings. It will combat the extreme heat, and we definitely felt this past year. And it'll be in alignment with the climate action plan that I'm proud to say that we passed in the past 5 or 6 years, and it'll reduce greenhouse gases. So I think those are important reasons. And also a little bit of pride here being a Tempe resident. Scottsdale beat us to it and did it voluntary, and just this year went mandatory. And being competitive like him, I'd love to see Tempe join in that because we've always been a leader. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. The next speaker I have this evening is Ann Till. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Hello, I'm Ann Till, Tempe resident, for the Green Building Code discussion. I'm somewhat disappointed with what I'm seeing because annual reporting doesn't seem like enough, and explore possible full mandatory after a minimum of 3 years sounds fairly uncommitted. And I expect Tempe to show more commitment to being a leader on this topic. And I also want to see a more transparent action plan for the residents. Each new building is a missed opportunity, and we're building a lot. What is Tempe losing? Water and energy savings, urban heat reduction, carbon emission reduction. And some of these would help renters too. It's already too hot in Tempe. Our summer temperatures are hotter than, say, Mesa and other nearby cities. And it's getting hotter, and Tempe needs to do everything they can do to cool it off, or people aren't going to want to live here because it's too hot. So the Green Building Code has been out for years now. Developers haven't rushed to jump on board on their own, and Tempe's just now studying it, so we're a little behind. And if incentives are given, use variances and zoning to, make that the trade. Scottsdale, again, is showing that they are innovative by making the code mandatory. And Tempe needs to be more of a leader and get this in place sooner rather than later, the mandatory part. I'd like to see status every 3 months, and I'd like to see a committed goal with an action plan. That's a living document, obviously, since there's a lot of studying going on. And I'd like to see regular public messaging about the activities and the status, like in the emails that you guys sent out, so that we can all see how this, the progress is going. And I'm not saying how to vote, but I just want to see more, upcoming on this topic, because I haven't heard enough about it, is what I feel. Thanks.
Thank you so much. The next speaker I have this evening is Kendon Young. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Kendon Young, Chair of your Sustainability and Resiliency Commission and resident of Tempe. Great to see you all. It's been since 2018 that we've been talking about this, and we are finally here, and I am so thrilled. I am also thrilled because while we need this yesterday, that this council and what the work of staff has been preparing is the culture shift that has to happen for this transition to grow roots. And I think that the passage of this, while I would wish it was mandatory, I think that voluntary is exactly where it needs to be. And that this council, as you heard in the last comment, press staff to ensure that we are playing the hard game of shifting minds and culture at the ground level so this can grow legs. This is working towards improving our commercial buildings first, and our municipal buildings through the mandatory adoption. It is also a demonstration of our leadership on how we can tie so many different pieces of this city government together. You saw a presentation from the Sustainability Office and the Community Development Office. That is intentional. That is a way to build strength in our community for good. You also heard about a position to work on this and develop all of the knowledge we need to accelerate items faster when it is appropriate, and I cannot wait for those presentations. And to acknowledge that this is an inflection point, at a point where we are able to solidify a highlight action that was called out in our climate action plan back in 2018. Tonight's vote will realize one of those highlight action items, and I'm so excited that we are here today. I appreciate your leadership, and I would ask for your continued pressure as we push to move the ground culture game to help our developers see the opportunity, to help our businesses see the opportunity, and to help our residents see how this tool makes our community more resilient in unknown futures. So thank you for that, and good luck.
Thank you so much. The last card I have this evening is from Sean Swisher. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Sean Swisher. I am a commissioner on the Sustainability and Resilience Commission here at the City of Tempe. I'm also an architect and senior associate at Jones Studio, an architecture firm here in Tempe. And I'm here to speak on behalf of the IGCC and encourage you to approve the resolution. Adoption of the IGCC is an important step in Tempe's journey to becoming a more sustainable city, but it is also important that we get it right to ensure the long-term viability of greener construction in our city. That means setting the code up for success by implementing through considerate steps. Making it voluntary to start allows us to test out and tweak the requirements of the code and ensure that staff know how to address issues of interpretation in an efficient and timely manner. As an architect practicing in Tempe and Phoenix and other jurisdictions, I can't tell you how many times I've had to go to battle with code officials in our interpretations over the code, and how many times that has come down to incorrect reading on their end and has wasted lots of hours in making sure they get it right. We can also see how the development community responds, see what, if any, cost impacts occur due to implementation, and set the roadmap for mandatory implementation for the next code cycle. This could also be used to incentivize development, to increase open space, provide more affordable housing and public amenities, while reducing the impact on our water resources and energy grid. I'd like to acknowledge some of the comments that have been made tonight and in other times that the IGCC has been raised in front of the council. There are no studies that show the IGCC has a measurable impact on housing costs in jurisdictions where it has been implemented. Construction costs for greener technology will be driven down the more that green codes are adopted nationwide. It's also important to note that the historic environmental impacts have primarily burdened our most vulnerable communities, and continuing to raise the bar and increase the standards we build with is the only way that we can begin to undo that impact. So finally, the adoption of the IGCC is critical to meeting our carbon emissions reduction goals, and I encourage the council to approve the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's all the cards I have on that item. Is there anyone else in the audience wishing to address the council on item 8C1? If so, please get my attention. Okay, seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Council, any comments or discussion on item 8C1? Yes, Councilmember Keating. Sorry, guys.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, staff, for the presentation, and thank you those that came to speak in favor or oppose. I will be supporting this tonight, and I'm very happy to do so. I share some of the public's want for mandatory, but we do know we just had a very spirited discussion on timelines and getting things done the right way, and I think that we do know that good policy does take time to flesh out. So staff has presented us with a pathway to making this mandatory. We're going to start out by it being voluntarily implemented and then kind of picking the best practices of those policies and moving them forward to mandatory ordinances. So I'm fine with that timeline, Mayor. I do think it sets a good example to other cities in the region as well, as far as an approach to get this done. While I tend to always agree with Mr. Sokolowski's points on housing, I don't think it would necessarily increase the price of housing in the city of Tempe, and it will work towards a longer term benefit that we all know that we need, to Ms. Till's point, as far as climate change goes. So this is an ordinance that I'm very proud of our staff for doing the work on this and bringing this forward, and I'm happy to be supporting it tonight.
Thank you so much. Councilmember DeVar?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, once again, thank you to all the speakers that came up and talked about this. This is exactly a great topic, and it kind of folds into the housing topic, obviously, too, on that. As we have stated, and as my colleague has stated, the process of this is in our benefit, I think. I mean, I've been on this council for so many years that when our approach is taken to where we start implementing things and we start navigating through what's working, what's not working to make the process even better, we've seen better outcomes on these things. And I've also been on the other side where we've been somewhat bombastic in trying to make things happen, which gets pushed back in our face or pushed back in various other directions. I think we're starting off on a good pace. I think what has been presented by our staff is there could be portions of this that could be implemented sooner than later. There also could be other effects that we're not seeing from Scottsdale and we can look from other cities. The thing is that we're making bigger steps than we have before. The relationship that this council has with developers, with advocating this policy that we want to try to implement, has a big benefit because we do actually have a city that has grown to a point to where we can influence these things, to the position to where we have position to make these things happen. So that's in our advantage. The other thing is housing. Housing is needed everywhere. Any type of housing is needed. Supply and demand is the issue. We will find, and this is not a switch that we can turn overnight to have affordability all of a sudden pop up. We have a item here on tonight that's actually going to get the city $10.8 million for affordability. So this city has done a tremendous amount getting recognized nationally on affordability. The thing is, though, it's a supply and demand. Although this helps on certain categories of building, and like I said, it's not housing, it's not single-family housing, it's the bigger buildings, the bigger boxes. This is a step in the right direction, I think, and I'll be supporting it also. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Any of the council members, any further comments or questions? All right, it's been moved by Councilmember Keating and seconded by Councilmember Hodge. Please vote. And that item passes 6-0 with Vice Mayor Adams absent. Excellent. All right, because we've got so many speakers here for one of the next items, 8C4, I'm also going to shift the agenda around to make sure that people are not sitting in the audience all night. We may have to be here, but we don't want you to all have to be here as well. So always try to be respectful. So we're going to move to item 8C4, and I'm going to flip around here a little bit. If I can actually get this page to separate without giving myself a paper cut. Here it is. It is to hold the second and final public hearing to amend the Tempe City Code by amending Chapter 2, Section 8, related to human relations, and Chapter 22, Article 5, related to fair housing, to prohibit discrimination in the selling, renting, or leasing of housing based on source of income. Council, any comments or questions for staff before I open the public hearing? None? Okay. Sounds good. I will now open the public hearing here, and I've got a number of cards here. I think I've got 11 in total, and I'm going to once again start with these in the order in which they were received. The first speaker I have this evening is Gail Shunk. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes. Was it? Let me ask a question. Was it technically on this issue, Madam City Attorney, or was it something else that she spoke on earlier? Or is it
She spoke on something else, Mayor, so it's absolutely fine for her to speak
Okay,
on this
sounds
topic.
good. Just wanted to make sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I am going to speak in different things.
Okay, yes, sounds good. Please go ahead.
I did speak different earlier to the Housing Authority about this issue, but my name is Gail Shunk. I have 2 rental properties in the city of Tempe. They are considering a new law which would make it illegal for me to not be able to make a tenant selection based on source of income, which I currently do. The main concern as somebody who does have rental properties in Tempe from a 5-bedroom to a 1-bedroom is damages that are done in excess of the amount of the security deposit. Currently, for my 1-bedroom, the city of Tempe paid for the security deposit. The tenant has no money. I know that, okay? She pays a very small amount. What happens if the damage is in excess of the very modest security deposit? Who pays for it? The city of Tempe? I doubt that. I don't know. Are they going to be liable for it? The tenant does not have money. I can go to court, but I pay for that. And if the tenant has no money, it seems kind of futile to do that. Now, I currently have one rented, Section 8. You know, I'm not against Section 8, but that is the concern of landlords. And when we have people call, if we have something listed for rent, that's one of the first questions that we hear a lot is, do you accept Section 8? All right, and that's the concern of many, many landlords. So I will tell you, I gave you a list earlier of things that we can discriminate against and things we cannot discriminate against. I have rentals here, and again, I will tell you, I do have separate rental agreement applications for students. Are you a member of a sorority or fraternity? That's not a protected class. I do not want a frat house in my 5-bedroom. I can ask that. Occupation, a classic lawsuit was in California. A builder would not sell to attorneys. Of course, he got sued. Guess who won? The builder. Because occupation is not a protected class. So there's things that we can do, to protect ourselves. And what we want to do is protect our property, but I welcome Section 8. I do have one, Section 8 at the moment, but that is the main concern that landlords have, is protecting their property. And so that was a concern for City of Tempe to consider. Thank you very much, and I met some of you earlier today. Thank you very much for your support.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate it.
Appreciate it. All right, the next speaker I have is Robert Nichols. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
My name is Robert Nichols. I live in the city of Tempe. Good evening, Mayor Woods, Tempe City Council members, tenants of Tempe, allies, neighbors, and friends. As I said just a moment ago, my name is Robert Nichols. My pronouns are he, him. I am a Tempe resident of 23 years, a public policy attorney, a tenants' right advocate, a former veterans' right legal advocate, and a community leader representing the Phoenix Metro chapter of the Democratic Socialists of America and our hundreds of members who live and work in Tempe. I am here today in solidarity with the Unemployed Workers United and the Take Back Our Homes campaign to call on this council to prohibit discrimination in housing by approving the source of income discrimination ordinance. I began my tenant advocacy work in the city of San Francisco with the California Lawyers Association's Homeless Advocacy Program. Despite what the name may suggest, my involvement in this program focused entirely on preventing bad faith and no-fault evictions of low-income and unemployed tenants. During that time, I witnessed the detrimental effects of income discrimination, most notably the artificial expansion of an already troubling unhoused population. While in court, standing alongside tenants with nowhere to go but the street, I was consistently shocked by the lack of concern that San Francisco's corporate landlords showed for the people paying their mortgages. The prioritization of property over people created an untenable dynamic between landlords and low-income tenants in San Francisco. I do not want that for Tempe. I will spare this council a recitation of the statistics which show that America's metro areas, Tempe included, are becoming increasingly unaffordable for the working families who have lived here for generations. I will similarly spare this council a recitation of the statistics which show that heat and exposure-related deaths are rising at a concerning speed in Maricopa County, a particularly brutal reality for our city's unhoused population, a population which is only expanded by housing discrimination against low-income and unemployed residents of Tempe. Instead, let me say this. It is today within the power of this council to protect Tempe's residents, workers, students, and families alike, from displacement and homelessness. It is therefore also within this council's power to prevent avoidable deaths in Tempe through a prohibition on source of income discrimination in housing. The passage of this ordinance is not radical. The passage of this ordinance will not bankrupt Tempe's homeowners. This is a reasonable and common sense change, which will benefit the people of our city. The idea that low-income and unemployed people are somehow less worthy of keeping a roof over their heads is unreasonable. The people of Tempe, just like people everywhere, deserve affordable housing regardless of the source of their income. Approving the source of income discrimination prohibition ordinance will protect residents who use Section 8 housing vouchers, unemployment benefits, veterans benefits, and Social Security disability insurance to secure needed housing. I encourage the council to pass the ordinance, and I yield my time.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. The next speaker I have, I hope I don't get this name incorrect, is Caitlin Garrity. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Hey,
Hey folks, my name is Caitlin Parody. Sorry about the handwriting there.
Sorry about that.
And I'm with the National Council for Occupational Safety. I'm a Phoenix resident, but I'm here with the National Council for Occupational Safety and Health, and in solidarity with Unemployed Workers United and the Take Back Our Homes campaign. So my organization helps workers fight for health and safety across the country, and housing is a really fundamental part of that. And so I'm here because, you know, housing in this city is fundamentally out of reach for low-income and working-class families. You know, wages are too low, rent is too high. The most recent data that I've seen from the National Income Housing Coalition show that if you're earning minimum wage here in Arizona, you'd have to work more than 70 hours a week, every week of the year, not missing a day, in order to afford even a modest one-bedroom rental at fair market rent. And we know those numbers are probably even higher when we're talking about our more expensive metro areas. So what this means is that, you know, the folks who are really the heart and soul of our community, who care for our elders and our children and keep our schools and our hospitals clean and our grocery stores stocked, they aren't earning a one-bedroom housing wage. And then we're turning around and discriminating against people who are actually receiving a little bit of support from our very weak social safety net. That's not right, and we're so pleased that you all have an opportunity to take a first step to changing that tonight by banning housing discrimination and passing a source of income discrimination policy. It's a common sense measure. It'll make sure that many of our working families and our most vulnerable community members will not be locked out of affordable housing just because they receive government assistance. And we really encourage you to do that. And then after that, you know, you have a beautiful opportunity to really actually be a champion and set some of the highest tenant standards in the state of Arizona by building on this and ending restrictive income requirements, ensuring tenants have the right to counsel, and taking other steps along those lines. So every person in our community deserves dignity, respect, and housing, and we hope that you affirm that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The next speaker I have is Maggie Acosta. Is Maggie Acosta available? Oh, all right. Yes, please come forward. State your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Maggie Acosta. I'm a Phoenix resident, but I'm here in solidarity with this group of Unemployed Workers United. And I am also a field director with Worker Power Institute, which is an economic justice organization dedicated to preserving democracy and improving the lives of working families across the United States through voter engagement and strategic policy interventions. I'm a local Arizona resident, and I am very happy that that Tempe City Council is taking this step to adopt a policy to end source of income discrimination. I'm a renter myself, and I have felt the reality of housing crisis. I have worked with hundreds of community canvassers over the past 5 years, and one of the most common stories that I hear is the lack of affordable housing. That is why we need the help from local elected officials. Passing this policy will ensure that many of our most vulnerable community residents will not be blocked from obtaining affordable housing just because they receive government assistance. I am glad that Tempe is leading and hope that other cities will follow and adopt similar policies. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The next speaker I have is Stephanie Gonzalez. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Stephanie Gonzalez Espinosa. I am a Tempe resident. I've lived here for nearly 7 years. And I'm a local community organizer. So I'm in constant touch with our community members all across the valley, talking about the different issues that we face on our day-to-day lives. And I'm here speaking today in solidarity with the Unemployed Workers United and their campaign in support of the source of income discrimination ordinance to protect our people from being displaced from our homes. I have lived in the city for almost 7 years, and my rent for a 2-bedroom has now reached $2,000. And we are asked that our income is equal to 3 to 5 times the amount of the rent. I see my neighbors move out every single week. The U-Haul trucks are parked right outside nearly all week because there is no rent control. We are going through a housing crisis. Our folks are getting paid enough. It's all of these issues that we are facing, and we need to start being proactive. We need to ensure that this policy is not only passed by our city council today, but that it will be implemented effectively and fairly. This is a good first step in the right direction, but we just need so much more to continue on. Like I said, we're going through a housing crisis that is very concerning to a lot of people. And like I said, I've spoken to many people across the valley, and I know housing is one of our top priorities. Time and time again, it always comes out as one of the top priorities for our folks, not only getting our folks out of the streets, but keeping our folks in their homes. So I encourage you to create proactive solutions like this and accessibility to resources, and we need to center the folks who are the most at risk. And only then we will be able to shift the conditions we live in and create a better city for our people. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker I have is Kiran Shah. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Kiran Shah. I'm a South Tempe resident here, volunteer with several organizations. One is Srimad Rajchandra Love and Care, and also volunteer with Tempe Community Action Agency, and where we serve meals to unsheltered population, which is getting serviced with the emergency shelter program. And I'm here today in solidarity with the unsheltered population. And when we go and see these serve meals to this population, it's like our heart goes out to them, because many of them are seniors, or they are, they are in wheelchair and things like that. So I would request the council members to be with the unsheltered population and pass this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker I have is Monique Hayes. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Monique Hayes. I've been a resident of Tempe, Arizona since December 1st of 2017. I'm a taxpayer, a registered voter, and I'm also employed full-time. I'm a mother, and I am also a housing voucher participant. Prior to finding my current residence, I had to ask for several extensions from the housing program due to additional time. Prior to finding my current residence, I had to ask for several extensions from the housing program to be allowed additional time to find a place willing to accept my voucher. I almost lost my voucher and was not able to find a place willing to accept the voucher. This hurdle added additional stress for me, because not only was I racing against the clock to find a place to live, I was also dealing with taking care of my daughters, the responsibility that goes along with that. I was also using any free time that I had, searching the internet, driving around, reaching out to realtors to see if they knew of any place in Tempe willing to accept a voucher. And all I kept hearing was no, no, and no. I felt defeated. I felt like I let my children down, because I was trying to give them a better life, and all I kept hearing was no. One of my daughters had special needs. Her school, her therapist, her daycare, and my job was in Tempe at the time, so it made sense for us to be there too. I've never been evicted. I don't have a criminal record. I'm employed full-time. I have a great rental history. The place I currently live, I've been there 6 years as of December 1st. Prior to that, I rented an apartment in Mesa. I was there 5 years. Prior to moving to Arizona, I was a tenant at that apartment for 11 years. The reason I'm saying this is because being a participant in the housing program doesn't make you less of a person. It doesn't mean that we are lazy, looking for handouts, uneducated, with a house full of unruly children. I'm asking that you look beyond the source of where the money is coming from that is helping us individuals and families make ends meet and focus more on the benefits. Some of the benefits are less empty units, which could help prevent squatter situations, helping prevent another individual and or families from increasing the homeless population. I can go on, but instead I'm going to wrap this up by asking you, our elected officials and leaders that
10
we
more
voted
seconds.
for, that you take charge and join us in the fight against housing voucher discrimination so that we can have equal access to clean and safe, affordable housing, just like those without a voucher.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The next speaker is Sarani Joshua. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Sarani Joshua, and I am here to hopefully thank Tempe City Council for passing the source of income anti-discrimination policy. I have been a homeowner in Tempe for 13 years, and I have also been a landlord. For the first 8 years, my husband and I rented out rooms in our house to be able to afford our mortgage. I never saw their source of income as in any way relevant to me as a landlord, and it should be completely irrelevant to any landlord. I'm also here to ask City Council to be brave and to move forward with other renter protections that frankly we should already have. We all know we have a housing crisis here in Tempe. In fact, my husband and I probably could not afford to buy in Tempe today. And I am an ASU PhD graduate working in the school system, and he is a teaching professor at ASU. So what does it say about our values in Tempe if our own ASU graduates cannot afford to live here? When I was in the Tempe Leadership Program, someone asked a former Tempe politician about housing costs. And he said, well, maybe Tempe is just going to turn into an upper middle class city, and that's okay. But I am not okay with that, because we need all those workers with lower incomes to run all the businesses and nonprofits and government agencies that keep Tempe running. It is deeply hypocritical to use their labor to enrich Tempe and then to turn around and indicate that they are not good enough to live here. It is also not in keeping with our own city's purportedly progressive values if our own senior citizens and disabled community cannot continue to live in their own city. I send my child to a Tempe public school to be part of a diverse community and not a discriminatory one. I know that Tempe cannot implement rent control until we change the state legislature, but there are other renter protections that we can implement. Just a few examples are, we can put limits on unreasonable income demands from landlords. We can remove the zoning restrictions on casitas. It's a little embarrassing that now Tempe is ahead of us when originally we were a leader in the valley on this issue. We can even artificially lower our height restrictions in Tempe to go around the state legislature's ban. And then we can require affordable housing units in new builds in exchange for exceeding the height requirement. We cannot just pat ourselves on the back for implementing small-scale projects like Tempe microstates, even though that is a wonderful project. Again, I hopefully thank you for passing the SOI anti-discrimination ordinance today, and I ask you to please push forward with large-scale and systematic solutions to the housing crisis. This is also a crisis of identity for a city, and I want us to live up to the values we profess. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The next speaker I have is Mavis Moore. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Mavis Moore, originally from Indiana, but I am currently a resident for Arizona and Tempe. I'm known as May May. I'm honored to be in everybody's presence today, but I do want to talk about or address the rent differences. It has increased a whole lot from back in the day when a studio apartment could be like $400. Now it's like $1,600. That's just studio prices, just to live there. It shouldn't have to be that way. Nobody should have to choose between food or where you're going to get your next meal or gas or if I'm going to sleep in the park the next day or have a roof over my head. Everybody should be able to live comfortably. And right now I'm not seeing that. Landlord and housing also need to focus on being a little bit more empathetic to meet everybody's accommodations and needs. But I also want to talk about my experience. My experience helping with the death of my father, who served in this country as a Marine. And ever since then, me and my son have been misplaced and had to live in very unsafe environments and had to deal with some very unsafe people. I was even turned down even with a good credit score of 630. And one eviction that happened from 5 years ago and was told I still need to make 3 to 5 times the rent when the person I'm getting the place from is not themselves making 3 to times 5. Their salary or their wage is not adding up to that amount for you to even ask me to make that. I think that's ridiculous. And where a lot of millions of doors have closed on us, I found one option, and thank God I had one great caseworker that was able to help me get through that. And barely by October, since April of being homeless, October 13th, we were able to get keys to our first apartment in a long time. I remember just my emotions running high and cried when I turned the key to my door. But that's why I'm standing here before you today, me, my son, who's like waking up now, in front of the Tempe City Council. I hope you guys please pass this ordinance to protect families like mine, yours, get the homeless up off the streets and bring back order to the community. I hope you guys change the dynamic so we don't become another statistic. And I sincerely thank you for hearing my voice. And again, I'm honored to be here. God bless.
Thank you so much. The next speaker is Victor Montoya. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Victor Montoya, Sierra Vista. My case isn't so much to deal with housing discrimination. It's just what happened to me was I attempted to organize a tenants union because we had a major kind of investigation by the U.S. Marshals. They came to my apartment complex. They occupied the entire area with about 30 agents, 2 mobile command centers, and various LE from other parts of the state, city and county, for an entire day. So essentially, what had happened was our landlord was a real estate flipper, and I think he was basically kind of papering over, brushing under the rug, serious criminal activity in the complex. So this prompted me to try to attempt to organize a tenants union, which about maybe 2 days later, my lease was ended in an act of what I feel is retaliation. The problem, I challenged this in eviction court and I lost. The judge took a extremely narrow interpretation of the law. There is a very strong law that protects tenant organization in Arizona, but essentially what I was told, even though I had about 20 members, I had to register the union, I guess, and I hadn't done that even though there's no place in the state to register a tenants union, as well as I did not notify the landlord, even though the law states that the onus is on the landlord to prove that their actions are not retaliatory against organization. I also uncovered other serious problems in the apartment complex due to malfeasance by my landlord. One tenant who was a pregnant woman told me that she smelled noxious odors in the unit underneath her. She believed that someone was producing methamphetamine and it was potentially affecting her unborn child at the time. She contacted the landlord. They simply laughed at her and hung up on her on the phone. And these were the things I was trying to address with my organization efforts. So essentially, like, there is a desperate need in Arizona to regulate the power of landlords. Right now, landlords are truly lords of the old times. They control everything about the tenants' lives and livelihoods, and everyone underneath them is essentially their subjects. There's little to no recourse. I challenged my landlord in civil court, lost, and now I cannot rent to anybody who uses a property management firm to manage their apartments, even though I'm not low income. A lot of people believe that these kind of issues affect low income people. I am not low income. I work in cybersecurity.
10 more seconds.
And so these kind of issues can affect any one of your loved ones on this council because they have like too much power. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker I have is Maisha Fish. Please come forward and state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Maisha Fish. I was formerly a Tempe resident. I'd like to come back. This is my story. I've lived in the Valley now for over 44 years. I'm a proud mother of 2 adult children and a college graduate. Most recently, I've been heavily involved with the ACLU of Arizona, and I am here today with Unemployed Workers United. I am passionate about working for the civil liberties issues such as decriminalization of homelessness. I am a Social Security recipient, 50 years old and autistic, a widow with limited external support. Homelessness has been a huge impact on my life as it has on many others. I secured a housing voucher via my mental health providers, but I want to make this very clear. The process took 3.5 years for it to happen. Because of this extreme waiting period, I took shelter in various low-budget hotels until my check would run out. I would be back on the street for 2 to 3 weeks at a time once my money ran out. I can't express to you the traumas or the severity I experienced as a woman with disabilities. I was exposed to extreme heat during the summers and extreme cold during our winters. Rainy days like today were just miserable. Unsheltered, I was harassed by law enforcement and was falsely imprisoned for 35 days in a correctional facility. I now suffer from PTSD when I have to deal with law enforcement of any kind. Being on the streets, I would carry what I could manage in a backpack, and then bedding and belongings I would stash in bushes, only to return with everything gone, and having to start from scratch all over. Even my husband's ashes were stolen. You can't imagine how my world came to an end that day. These and other experiences are devastating to my mind, body, and spirit. Our unsheltered community suffers unimaginable hardship. The city of Tempe has a responsibility to end this reality. As a leader of our Take Back Our Homes campaign, I have seen how directly impacted people need this ordinance to happen. We need to expand our access to housing for people receiving public assistance. The council members need to ensure the most vulnerable are neither harassed, discriminated against, or criminalized. Do what you are here for and protect your people, the people of Tempe. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. The next speaker I have is Sebastian Del Portillo. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, good evening, Council. My name is Sebastián del Portillo. I'm the campaign coordinator with Unemployed Workers United and our Take Back Our Homes campaign here in the Valley. I currently live in Phoenix. I just moved from Tempe actually in August. And first I want to say I appreciate Council for putting this forward. Councilmember Hodge, thank you. Keating, thank you for championing this. And people just simply should not face this type of economic discrimination. We know that's what shouldn't be, but that is the reality right now. As it's been mentioned here, we know that landlords wield incredibly disproportionate power that's backed legally over tenants. What banning source of income discrimination will do is that it will keep people in their homes and give access to more families, more children who are the unseen victims of this housing crisis, security and stability. This ordinance does nothing to weaken resources for landlords. It was suggested that people can cause property damage. Any suggestion that folks using government assistance are more likely to inflict property damage is just unfounded. And it's evidence of the exact bias against the working class people of Arizona. It's also incredibly important for the city to put out very clear guidance and clear interpretation of this ordinance. Even with this ordinance, we know landlords are not just stopped from discriminating against people. And many times, and we're seeing this in Phoenix, landlords are asking people on rental assistance to provide 2 or 3 times the rent of the market rent price, not their portion that they pay. So it's really important that this guidance is distributed. We have some examples of how Tucson has done this well. Phoenix has not done this well, and we're seeing that play out in Phoenix. And we're happy to send you, what those examples of that guidance looks like. I believe they've also done it well in California. But yeah, the effectiveness of this ordinance will rely on its interpretation and its implementation. And so someone also suggested supply and demand is the solution. It's not. We need to think more creatively and more innovatively, which I believe this council is capable to do, or is capable of doing. And we need to do more to expand more tenant protections, reduce evictions. Tempe is a hot spot. Landlords have plenty of rights and advantages, but landlords are not the only human beings in Tempe. There's a diverse, beautiful community from many cultures who live in Tempe, and they're not just tenants, they're also human beings that live here. So we must pass this ordinance, and we really need to look towards
10 more seconds.
Policies like rent control, rent stabilization, right to counsel, right to an attorney in eviction court, limiting fees and predatory practices from landlords. There's a lot we can do. So I hope we pass this today, but we need to be bold and we need to look forward to more protections for tenants. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker I have is Evelyn Castillo. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Hello, thank you everyone. My name is Evelyn Castillo. I am the Phoenix Field Organizer with the Take Back Our Homes campaign here in Arizona. I was a former Tempe resident. I now live in Mesa because it was a tiny bit more affordable. But I was actually here about a month ago during the study session and I shared my story with you all. So I won't reshare, but I'm here to really emphasize the importance of this ordinance. And I just wanted to, again, emphasize that although this basic ethical ordinance is a step in the right direction, we know that it's not the overall solution, and that this is just the beginning. Thank you, Council, for supporting a source of income discrimination policy, but we know that more must be done in order to ensure families and neighbors stay housed in communities to which they belong. The median rent in Tempe this year has risen almost 46%, alone this year. And so the housing crisis is only getting worse, causing the size of the unsheltered population to hit record numbers. Rent control and strong tenant protections can help slow this crisis down. So we are asking all elected officials to respond to the needs of their constituents because we will never stop organizing in our communities as long as we are being directly impacted, especially from the lack of housing and affordability. It's disheartening to hear that some stigmas and stereotypes are being perpetuated around poor, working class people and those on government assistance. And we have a much bigger fight when it comes to affordable housing. And I hope this council continues to provide more equitable protections for all tenants, regardless of your background or income. Thank you so much for listening to our stories.
Thank you. The last card I have this evening is from Jack Drummond. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, I'm Jack Drummond. Tempe resident. I was 10 years homeless. Tempe Housing Authority helped me get a place. I've been 10 years housed. 10 years ago, everything I owned was in my backpack. I was living in the parks. I have been at the same place that I moved in on. I wanted to point out that the landlords that lost money in the COVID rent moratorium did not get stiffed by Section 8 tenants. They all paid because they have a lesser amount to come up with themselves. And there was some price gouging after that. And they ended up running off fully employed tenants, and all the Section 8s were able to remain. And they had open units. I had a next door unit to mine open 6 months unrented because they ran people out. That's really all I have to say is successful for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. That is the last card that I had this evening. Is there anyone else in the audience who's wishing to address the council on this item before I close the public hearing? If so, please get my attention. Is there, no? Okay, sounds good. Okay, I will go ahead and close the public hearing then. Council, we'll turn to you. Any comments or discussion? Councilmember Hodge?
Yes. Yes, I do. I want to thank everybody who spoke today. As I have said before, and I'll say again, and I'm very proud to say this, is I'm probably one of the only council members that's going to ever sit in this seat that has been on Section 8 and has been at a point that I know what it feels like to be able to not able to have...
No clapping, everyone.
No, to not able to know where your next meal is coming from, to not know how you're going to be able to feed your kids. So I've been there, and I can say that I will never stop fighting. This is one thing that I got on council for, and I will always be supportive of it because it really touches me now that I can say I am a homeowner. You know what? I'm one of the success stories. I need to bring everybody else with me because there is people out there who will step so far behind. And I promise you this much. I will always be an advocate in whatever I do because like I said, I'm not just someone who is a supporter on the side. I've lived this life and I will always continue to fight. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Keating?
Thank you very much, Mayor. Thank you to everybody who came out to speak on this item tonight. Thank you, Unemployed Workers United, for organizing and showing up here and sharing your stories with us, because as Councilmember Hodge commented on, these stories are all too real and they affect real people, and sometimes that's lost in the ether when you're planning a policy that we're working to change and better people's lives. So I really appreciated your comments, ma'am. I don't remember your name. I'm sorry, I'm a bad politician, but I like what you said about that people on vouchers aren't necessarily lazy. They're not criminals. These are people that are everyday individuals that happen to be on a certain program. And I think part of the reason why I introduced this with Councilmember Hodge was to kind of destigmatize that idea, right? There are landlords that we heard speak not at this meeting and previous meetings that are hesitant to Section 8 people, and rightfully or wrongfully, I happen to disagree with their points on that, but they will now begin to learn and begin to see that we're all just real people here doing the best we can. So hopefully this helps to destigmatize those people that are on vouchers. I appreciated the gentleman's comments. I don't think he's here anymore. That this isn't necessarily something that only affects people that are lower income. Oh, yes, there you are. The housing prices have skyrocketed all across the country, particularly in Arizona, particularly in Tempe, because everyone wants to be here, right? Speaking for myself, I bought my house in 2015. I couldn't afford it today, not by a long shot. So we need to do what we can to bring down the cost of housing. Now, is this the end all be all to do that? Absolutely not. But this is just another tool that we have that will allow us to start bending that curve down. Things like ADUs is another tool that we have that is going to help us increase the supply of housing in the city. Adding density where density is appropriate, like our downtown urban core, adding housing units to our housing stock will help the housing crisis. So particularly in this ordinance, what we're doing is we're saying we are securing permanent housing for folks most affected by the housing crisis. So I'm incredibly proud of that. And I need to thank Councilmember Hodge. Her and our committee brought this forward. And when Phoenix did this, I was watching, because I'm a nerd, I watch other cities' city council meetings. So I was watching on a Tuesday afternoon. That's when they have their meetings. And I was like, this seems like a very reasonable, easy thing that we can do in the city of Tempe to maybe take some pressure off some folks. So first call I made was Councilmember Hodge, and she was all for it. Then I called my assistant Annie in the back there, and her and CPAN in the front helped navigate this process. So we started, must have been April or May, Councilmember Hodge, if I remember correctly.
It was May, yeah.
So it's been a long time coming. So I'm very pleased that we've gotten to this point tonight. The gentleman that said that there's guidelines that I guess Tucson is doing well and maybe Phoenix isn't, send us those guidelines. A policy is no good if we're not implementing it the correct way. So we want to make sure we're doing it in the best possible way. So we're certainly open to those guidelines as a council and as staff as well. So once this passes tonight, and it will pass, I suspect it will be unanimous. We want to make sure that we're continuing that conversation with everybody to make sure that we're doing the best that we possibly can. I want to thank my colleagues as well. One, for listening to me talk for so long just now, but two, just for being supportive about all this. We have very spirited discussions behind closed doors, but this one was a very easy thing to bring forward. And we agreed from the beginning, from the concept to the vote. So thank you to my colleagues, thank you to staff, thank you all again. I'm looking forward to supporting this tonight, and Mayor, with that, I move that we approve.
And I second it.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Keating and seconded by Councilmember Hodge. Now we have time for more comments. Councilmember Navarro.
Thank you, Mayor. And I appreciate Councilmember Keating, Councilmember Hodge for taking this on, and staff actually for implementing this whole thing. And I know it's considerably for government pretty quick getting this thing done. But I also have to thank everyone coming in and sharing their stories. I also want to make sure that, even on the other side of the people in the room, there is safeguards within this. It's not just an open, to landlords to take anybody they want. There is safeguards within this. And with every policy and what we spoke about, we find better things to tweak and add and implement within the policy too. So I think we have opportunity within that. So I think this is a great step forward when we talk about affordability, we talk about housing of all kind. This helps us out. And I also want to tell you, if you guys want to engage in this conversation even more, even next or 2 Wednesdays, December 13th, 5:30 p.m. at the Powell Center at the library, we'll be talking about housing. That's one of our last topics on affordability. And these ideas and these things that we bring up, this is information that we can give back to the council. So more in depth to that, more personal conversation, because out of those meetings, we do find other solutions. There was actually a lady here that talked about something, here's an idea. If you do this, maybe this can happen. Maybe the height is too high. Maybe that is some sort of trade-off to do some sort of funding for affordability. Ideas like that actually do translate, and they actually do formulate some of the ideas that we do up here on the council. This city does take pride in what we try to achieve in housing, but at the end of the day, it's about the market, right? It's about the market. It's about how saturated or not saturated in terms of housing we need. We need all kinds of housing out there. We do, all kinds of housing. That helps us affordability. And like I said, this is not going to happen overnight, but we need to make steps. Not only Tempe, the region, it's the metropolitan. Okay, if you want to live in the metropolitan, you got to have some sort of resources. And when we get involved, the government gets involved, like we have an agendized tonight of items of affordable money coming to the city, utilizing that money to help do affordability. That's our opportunity as a government to help extend that. So I appreciate it. Thank you guys for all the hard work, and appreciate all the comments.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Navarro. Anyone else? Further comments? Just a very quick thing on my end as well. I really appreciate the conversation and the comments that everyone made this evening. And just like Councilmember Keating talked about, I'm very much in favor of density bonus programs. I know that was one of the things that was discussed earlier before I became mayor about a sort of comprehensive urban core master plan, and that was one of the pieces I know we've talked about bringing back to allow people to exceed certain kinds of height limits if they are going to provide some measure of affordable housing in those developments, not just so a developer can get rich and make more money, but obviously provide housing for people in our community who really desperately need it. And the accessory dwelling unit conversation, I know we very recently had too. We are in the middle of a housing supply crisis, but also very much a housing affordability crisis. So whatever we can do to add additional units, if people want to add what they used to call mother-in-law suites and things of that nature on their properties, and we can find a way to get that done, I think this council has a moral imperative to get that across the finish line. So I'm very supportive of that. But going back to what I said during the first public hearing about source of income discrimination, look, as someone who's Councilmember Keating talked about buying his home, I believe, in 2015. I bought my first and only home back in late 2006, sold the home in June of 2020, right before I became mayor, and thought I'd be able to buy another home. And right after that, home prices shot through the roof. Interest rates recently have hovered around 8%. And of course, a couple of years ago, people were refining at 2 3/4 and 3%. I can't afford to buy a home in the city of Tempe at this point, and I've been renting for 3.5 years. While it's not necessarily an affordable unit, I very much understand the concern of when people say a studio apartment now is costing $1,500, $1,600 a month to basically live in 400 square feet. So obviously, there are bigger things that we're going to have to continue to tackle as a council and frankly as a state and a country when it comes to affordable housing. But my perspective a few weeks ago when we first had this conversation, and my perspective now when it comes to source of income, I don't care whether you have cash, a check, money order, Zelle, Venmo, a housing choice voucher, a VASH voucher, it is income, and that is payment. And the landlord, if they have that, they are able to get paid. And you should not be able to discriminate against people and turn someone away based on the method or the form of payment. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's absurd. And I'm glad that after this evening, it's no longer going to take place in the city of Tempe. So with that said, I'll call the question. Let's vote. And that item passes 6-0 with Vice Mayor Adams absent. All right. Thank you. Now, I'm going to try to move back to the rest of my agenda here. No, we're not done. We got more. But wait, there's more. Stick around. Stick around. All right. That moves us to item 8A, miscellaneous items, bids, contracts, and resolutions. First item is 8A1, which is to hold a public hearing and adopt a resolution to modify the schedule of charges, rates, deposits, and fees for wastewater services by amending Appendix A, Schedule of Fees and Charges of Tempe City Code, Section 27-196. Council, any questions for staff on this item? Okay, actually, hold on, this is a public hearing item, so is there anyone in the audience wishing to address the City Council on this item? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. I'll now move by Councilmember Hodge, seconded by, I think, Councilmember Chin. Please vote. That item passes 6-0 with Vice Mayor Adams absent. The next item under the section is 8A2, which is to hold a public hearing and adopt a resolution to modify the schedule of charges, rates, deposits, and fees for water services by amending Appendix A, Schedule of Fees and Charges of Tempe City Code, Section 33-56. Council, any comments or questions for staff? This is also a public hearing item. Any of the audience wishing to address the council on this, please get my attention. Seeing that, I'll close the public hearing. Been moved by Councilmember Navarro and seconded by Councilmember Keating. Please vote. That item also passes 6-0 with Vice Mayor Adams absent. The next item under the section is 8A3, which is to hold a public hearing and adopt a resolution to modify the schedule of charges, rates, deposits, and fees for solid waste services by amending Appendix A, Schedule of Fees and Charges of Tempe City Code, Section 28-61. Council, any comments or questions for staff? This is also a public hearing item. Anyone in the audience wishing to address the council, please get my attention. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Do I have a motion to approve? Second. It's been moved by Councilmember Hodge and seconded by Councilmember Keating. Please vote. And that item passes 6-0 with Vice Mayor Adams absent. The next item under the section is 8A4, which is to approve one-year contract renewals with Dubois Chemical Incorporated, Hill Brothers Chemical Company, KAAM Group Incorporated, and Thatcher Company in Arizona Incorporated for the purchase of water treatment chemicals for the Municipal Utilities Department. Council, any comments or discussion? Okay, do I have a motion? I think it's been moved by, I'm going to say, Councilmember Keating and seconded by Councilmember Navarro. Please vote. And that item passes 6-0 with Vice Mayor Adams absent. The next item under the section is 8A5, which is to approve the utilization of one-year State of Arizona cooperative contracts with W.W. Granger, Paul's Ace Hardware, Brown's Parts Master, Ferguson Enterprises Incorporated, Voss Lighting, American Refrigeration Supplies, American Air Filter, and Intermountain Lock and Security for the purchase of maintenance, repair, and operating supplies. Council, any comments or discussion? It's been moved by Councilmember Keating, seconded by Councilmember Hodge. Please vote. That also passes 6-0 with Vice Mayor Adams absent. The next item under the section is 8A6, which is to approve a one-year contract renewal with United Healthcare to provide group Medicare Advantage plans to eligible city employees, city retirees, and their eligible dependents. Council, any comments or discussion? Moved by Councilmember Keating, seconded by Councilmember Hodge. Please vote. That item passes 6-0 with Vice Mayor Adams absent. The next item under the section is 8A7, which is approve the utilization of one-year National Association of State Procurement Officials Value Point Cooperative Contract with Saratoga Rack Marketing LLC for the purchase of gasoline and diesel fuels. Council, any comments or discussion? Is there been moved by Councilmember Keating and seconded by Councilmember Hodge? Please vote. That item passes 6-0 with Vice Mayor Adams absent. The next item under the section is 8A8, which is to adopt a resolution authorizing the mayor to sign an intergovernmental agreement between the city of Tempe and Maricopa County. Through this agreement, the parties will increase affordable housing availability in the city of Tempe. The execution of the project shall assist low-income families in Maricopa County by increasing the availability of affordable rental housing. The county shall provide American Rescue Plan Act funds to the city to construct and develop directly or through an eligible subrecipient or developer affordable rental housing units that cater to low-income families. The county shall provide the city of Tempe with $10,800,000 in ARPA funds under assistance listing number 21.027 and provided to the county through the U.S. Department of Treasury. The term of the IGA is December 6, 2023 through December 31st of 2025. This agreement may be extended, but not beyond December 31st, 2026, with the condition of the city of Tempe is in compliance with the terms and conditions of this agreement. Councilmembers, any comments or discussion? I think Councilmember Navarro had comment.
Just quickly, perfect partnership between the county and the cities, Maricopa County, and making sure that this money gets through. I know that a lot of people out there and a lot of cities out there actually, need this in various places, but this is a city that has recognized that we do need that affordability, especially in the metro area, the Phoenix, Scottsdale area. So I think this is a great opportunity, and glad to see this 10.8 million be given to the city of Tempe. Let us execute on getting it done. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been moved by Councilmember Hodge. Do I have a second? Second by Councilmember Keating. Any further comments or questions? With that, please vote. I can if you want me to. That item also passes 6-0 with Vice Mayor Adams absent. The next item under the section is 8A9, which is to adopt a resolution authorizing the mayor to sign Amendment 2 to an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Tempe and the Regional Public Transportation Authority for the purchase and supply of transit services for fiscal year 2023-24. Council, any comments or questions? Seeing none, been moved by Councilmember Keating. It's been, taken back and then moved by Councilmember Garland, seconded by Councilmember Navarro. Please vote.
Something went wrong.
Because I took back my motion.
Let's see, Councilmember Chin, voice vote? Aye. Councilmember Garland, voice vote? Councilmember Keating?
Yes.
And Councilmember Navarro? Aye. And so that item also passes 6-0 with Vice Mayor Adams absent. Let's see if we can quickly reset the board. It looks like it froze.
Refresh the browser.
The circle arrow? Yeah, the circle.
Yeah, mine's not refreshing.
Okay, got it.
Let me try here. I'm gonna log out and log back in here.
I was asking a serious question. Yes, I did, thank you. The circle arrow.
No, mine still has the votes up here.
Yeah.
But just refresh.
No, I just did it. It's still,
No, go hit that, hit the,
well,
no, just hit the,
We gotta go to the next item for the screen.
yeah.
okay. I really want to quote Office Space right now and say PC load letter. What does that mean? Anyway, next item under the section is 8A10, which is to award a professional services contract to Carollo Engineers Incorporated for the granular activated carbon and other improvements at the Johnny G. Martinez Water Treatment Plant Project. Johnny G. Been moved by Councilmember Navarro, seconded by Councilmember Keating. Please vote. And that item passes 6-0 with Vice Mayor Adams absent. Next item under the section is 8A11, which is to award a construction contract to Lincoln Constructors Incorporated for the infrastructure improvements Smith Road, University Drive to Rio Salado Parkway project. Any comments or discussion? Moved by Councilmember Navarro and seconded by Councilmember Keating. Please vote. That item passes 6-0 with Vice Mayor Adams absent. Next item under the section is 8A12, which is to award a construction contract to Archer Western Construction, LLC, for the granular activated carbon and other improvements Johnny G. Martinez Water Treatment Plant Project located at 255 East Marigold Lane. Council, any comments or discussion?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Hodge, seconded by Councilmember Keating. Please vote. That item passes 6-0 with Vice Mayor Adams absent. The last item under the section is 8A13, which is to, did I already do that? No? No, different one. Is to adopt a resolution to support all municipal construction of Tempe buildings to be built on, and I actually studied that beforehand and still botched it. I'm so upset with myself. It's to adopt a resolution to support all municipal construction of Tempe buildings to be built utilizing the International Green Construction Code in order to support the adoption of a voluntary IGCC code adopted by the City Council on November 30th, 2023. That is earlier tonight. Council, any comments or discussion? It's been moved by Councilmember Garland and seconded by Councilmember Keating. Please vote. That item also passes 6-0 with Vice Mayor Adams absent. The next section on the non-consent agenda is ordinances items for introduction and first hearing. These items under the section will be read and introduced tonight, but no vote will be taken. The second hearing and votes are scheduled for December 21st, 2023. So the first item under the section is 8B1, which is to introduce and hold the first public hearing to adopt an ordinance authorizing the abandonment of 2 water line easements located on the east side of Beck Avenue and north of the Howe Street alignment. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to address the council on this item? If so, please get my attention. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Council, any comments or discussion? All right, hearing none, the second and final public hearing on this item is scheduled for December 21st, 2023. The last item under the section is 8B2, which is to introduce and hold the first public hearing to adopt an ordinance authorizing the abandonment of an existing public utility easement crossing the properties of 352, 354, 356, 358, 360, and 362 South Farmer Avenue. Is there anyone here in the audience wishing to address the council on this? This is also a public hearing item. Seeing none, close the public hearing. Council, any comments or discussion? Okay, once again, the second and final public hearing on this item is scheduled for December 21st, 2023. Can't go backwards. All right, the next up here, ordinances and items for second hearing and final adoption. We've already actually done 8C1, so we're going to go right here to 8C2, which is to hold the second and final public hearing to adopt an ordinance authorizing the granting of a power distribution easement to Salt River Project Agricultural Improvement and Power District over certain city-owned property identified by APN 132-36-031, which is 2112 East Freedom Way, Tempe 85281, and authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute an easement agreement and related documents. Anyone in the audience wishing to address the council on this? This is a public hearing item. If so, please get my attention. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Council, any comments or discussion? It's been moved by Councilmember Hodge and seconded by Councilmember Keating. Please vote. That item passes 6-0 with Vice Mayor Adams absent. The next item under the section is 8C3, which is to hold the second and final public hearing to adopt an ordinance amending Zoning and Development Code Section 3-428, Vacation and Short-Term Rentals, and Section 6-313, Security Plans, based on prior city code changes, and a change to Section 4-204, Standards for Building Height in GID and HID District, from 35-foot to a maximum 65-foot height. For the Tempe Zoning and Development Code, the City of Tempe is the applicant. Council, any questions for staff on this item? Seeing none, this is a public hearing item as well. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to address the council on this item? Please get my attention if so. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Is there a motion on item 8C3? Been moved by Councilmember Hodge, seconded by Councilmember Garland. Please vote. And that item also passes 6-0 with Vice Mayor Adams absent. That takes us to the end of our meeting. And that brings us to item number 9, current events, council announcements, and future agenda items. Once again, council members may request that an agenda item also be added to a future council meeting during their allotted time if they would like. But in accordance with the open meeting law, there should be no discussion on the item other than to clarify the request. This evening, I'm going to start with Councilmember Chin.
Thank you, Mayor. I have no announcements tonight.
All right, thank you so much. Next up, Councilmember Garland.
No announcements, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Next up, Councilmember Hodge.
Yes, I would like for you to come join me this Saturday with the Vice Mayor. We're going to be introducing our park rangers again to the community. I'm so excited to do that. It's from 10 to 12 tomorrow. Thank you. And also, I want to say congratulations to Alex, who did a phenomenal job on his park rangers interview. And my last one is the Peterson House is going to have open house throughout the month of December. So please come out and join and have a great time. And everybody else, I wish you a happy holiday. I'll see you guys again. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're coming back on December 21st. We're not done yet. I'm just saying. Next up, Councilmember Keating.
Thank you, Mayor. Tomorrow is my father's 70th birthday, so I just want to wish him a happy birthday. Lansing, Michigan. Hope you're staying warm and hope you had the Seahawks tonight. Thanks.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. Councilmember Navarro.
Thank you, Mayor. Just our last housing conversation is going to be 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. In a couple Wednesdays, December 13th at the Tempe Public Library, the lower level. Keep on switching it up on me. So please come out. Last final conversation. We're going to talk about everything we encompassed about affordability all the way up to market rate and any other ideas, any last minute communication on this subject. This is not to say we're done about this conversation, but we're done for this December. So come on out, have that conversation with us, and see you guys out there.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. I did all my announcements earlier, so I don't have any additional things. Next up, public appearances. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to address the council? And if so, please get my attention. Seeing none, I will close that portion of the meeting, which brings me to item 11, which is adjournment. The next regular city council meeting, Councilmember Hodge, is December 21st, 2023, and we are adjourned.